Hello, my dear students of class 8. Hope you are all fine. In this situation, you have to make yourself fittest, look after yourself, your family and all. So in continuation, our discussion on our past part 3. Today we shall be discussing about one of the most important event of the Indian history as well as the world history, we should say, that is the revolt of 1857. Many historians called this revolt as one of the greatest revolt against the colonial rulers. This is one of the biggest armed rebellion held ever. That's why this event is not only important for the Indian history, it is equally important for the world history also. Now let us look back. Earlier also we have discussed about certain policies adopted by the British government for which all the sections of the society were getting disappointed. They were being discriminated. All were disappointed due to various policies adopted by the British government. What were those policies? Actually, all of us we know the British actually arrived over here as a business group, business community, all of you know, like other business communities, like the Portuguese, then Hollanders, the Dutch, okay, various other French, many business groups, they arrived over here, okay, for a long period of time, they continued their business, then they went away. But the British, their intention was different. Not only conducting the business, they wanted to capture the total administrative policy, total administration over here in our country. They found that this land is enriched with immense wealth, natural wealth. Then until and unless we capture the total administration, it will not be easier for us to conduct the business in more smooth way. That was their intention. So definitely they adopted certain policies which helped their business as well as acquiring more and more territories. Say for example, they have adopted one policy, doctrine of lapse. What was this policy, doctrine of lapse? Earlier we have discussed, hope you can recall, that they used to conduct survey, various types of survey they used to conduct in our country. It may be regarding the land survey, revenue survey, forest survey, population survey, various types of survey they used to conduct over here. For what is the reason? For smooth conduction of the administration. So once after the survey they have found that there were certain regions, certain provinces of our country where the leaders were not having their own son who will be the ruler next time. That was the problem. So and accordingly they planned to introduce doctrine of lapse. What is this doctrine of lapse? This means this new act, when introduced, it indicated that if the ruler of any Indian ruler dies without his own son, okay, own biological son, then his territory, his state will go directly under the British government. Why they have adopted this policy? Because in this way there was no need of war, fighting, okay, wastage of arms and weapons or soldiers and all. So instead of any kind of war, they could acquire more and more territories under the British government. That was the basic reason. Then another policy they have adopted, it is subsidiary alliance. What is this subsidiary alliance? Subsidiary alliance means, see, alliance means a kind of friendship, but subsidiary alliance means the rulers will not have their own armed groups, no army will be there. Regarding the collection of revenue, the actual authority will lie with the British government. Actually, specifically if we say it will lie with the East India Company. Okay. So the army, the collection of revenue, all the responsibilities will be of the British, and they will enjoy the power. The original ruler, the Indian ruler, will not have any power at all. He will just look after the administration, he will collect the revenue and hand it over to the East India Company. So that was the policy, subsidiary alliance, without having their own power, the leaders. Then there was another one that is called Sunset Law. What is this Sunset Law? Sunset Law means on a particular day the Indian rulers were supposed to submit the revenue. Now you know, in that period the communication system was not improved at all. Okay, from far away places, from far away villages, okay, the rulers sometimes failed to submit the revenue on that particular day before the sunset. So what was the law? That if on that particular day the ruler fails to submit the revenue, his territory will go back to the company. So these were the policies. These were some tricky policies, discriminations made with the Indian rulers, that they have to follow this, and accordingly they will remain powerless. Automatically the company will enrich itself regarding revenue collection or army controlling and everything. Actually what happened, the various sections of the society, all, right from the farmers to the landlords, zamindars, kings, nawabs, all, right from the very beginning, from the grassroots level, all were suffering actually. All were suffering due to the heavy duties. Okay, heavy taxes were imposed. Okay, the rate of revenue was too high. That was the basic reason. So due to that, the sufferings of all the sections were a major issue that time. And definitely, people cannot be made, means what to say, you cannot suppress people for a longer period of time. Okay, of course it is possible that a small section of the society can be suppressed for a smaller period of time. Okay, but for a longer period of time you cannot suppress so many people, isn't it? That was the situation happening, because as I said, from the farmers, okay, from the grassroots level, all the kings, nawabs, okay, the landlords, okay, the industrialists, all were suffering just due to the high rate of the revenue. I hope you are getting the point. So when all the sections of the society were suffering, their grievances were increasing, then definitely it was going to be expanded, it was going to be exploded in larger manner. Now let us see the other part of this topic, that is how the Nawabs lost their power. Actually it started from the mid-19th century itself. From the mid-19th century, the Nawabs, the Indian Nawabs started losing their power. How it happened? Actually each and in every ministry, each and every court of the kings, one resident was stationed. Are you getting the point? One resident was stationed in every court of the Indian kings. So what was his responsibility of that resident? Actually there was direct control of the administration on the hands of those residents. The Nawab was there, he has to look after the administration, he has got the responsibility of the collection of revenue, maintaining administration, day-to-day activities and all. But the power, the real power was lying with the resident. Hope you got the point. So resident was controlling the total administration, but running administration, day-to-day activities, collection of revenue, everything was handled by the Nawab himself, the kings themselves. Got the point? So when the direct control of the administration was with the resident, then what was the role of the Nawab? He was just playing his responsibility without enjoying the power. Whereas the company, the residents, they were just enjoying the power without having any responsibilities. Got the point? So they were having the power without the responsibilities, and the Nawabs, kings, the Indian rulers, they were having the responsibilities but without any power. So that was the situation. But how long it could continue? Then their armed forces were disbanded. the Indian rulers were not having their own arm. All these powers were snatched from them, okay, taken away from them. Revenue collection, the responsibility of the collection of revenue was with the hands in the kings and nawabs and all, okay. Now you see there another major issue was very important here. That is Rani Lakshmi Bai, then Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib was the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. All of you know. Okay. So as Nana Sahib was the adopted son, and Rani Lakshmi Bai also having the adopted son, actually they demanded for to assure that the adopted son also will get the the right of ruling the administration of that particular territory. But actually those demands were not granted. Those were rejected. The British government rejected those demands made by Rani Lakshmi Bai, Nana Sahib and other the adopted rulers. Okay. And another issue, that is by subsidiary alliance and by some other means, Awadh was annexed by 1801. Awadh. There was another issue regarding Awadh. It was said that Awadh was controlled, Awadh was not running properly. The administration of Awadh was not running properly. What was the situation? The situation was that there was misgovernance. There was misgovernance. Are you getting the point? Due to the misgovernance, the company captured the Awadh. Okay, Awadh was captured by the British government, because it was the claim that the Nawab, the ruler of Awadh, was not able to run the administration properly. Misgovernance was the issue. Actually these are all fake issues made by the British government. Got the point? So earlier it was captured by some other policy, and later on by the issue of misgovernance, Awadh was captured by the British government. So these were the issues. And moreover, another very major issue here, that the last Mughal ruler would be considered as the Bahadur Shah. Okay, Bahadur Shah II was considered as the the last Mughal ruler. Later on, no other Mughal ruler will be considered as the Nawab or the emperor. Okay, they will be considered as the princes. Okay, there will be no more emperor for the for the British government. And another important thing in the coins and all, earlier there was the picture names of the Mughal Nawabs. Okay, but then it was removed. Okay, then Indian Nawabs name will not be there. Indian emperors Mughal emperors name will not be there in the currency. It was removed because they will not be considered as emperor anymore. They will be considered just as the ruler. They will be just considered as the princes. Got the point? So that way the power of the Indian rulers were reduced a lot. Okay, in every sense the power of the Indian rulers were reduced, and total power was controlled by the East India Company. So that was the situation. Hope you are getting the point. Okay, now let us see what was the condition of the peasants and the sepoys. Okay, just imagine one situation. Say for example, two persons working under the same organization, okay, joined on the same day, but one was getting high salary and the other is getting too low. Then how they would feel? That is the point we shall discuss today. So the peasants, what was the situation of the peasants? What was the situation of the peasants and the sepoys? Okay, that we shall see now. Actually, the first issue was high taxation, high rate of taxation. High rate of taxation. One thing you see, the Indian soldiers who were working at the British Army, they belonged to basically the farmers' family from various regions. Now those farmers' family were being tortured by the high rate of taxations. Now see, the soldiers belong to those farmers' families. They were dedicated for the service of the British government, those soldiers, and their families in the villages were suffering. Then how do you feel in that manner? Because they were quite loyal to the British government. they were serving with full loyalty under the British government, whereas their families were suffering. Their families were tortured for high taxation. Okay, there was the rate of the revenue was too high, and it was impossible for many families to provide that revenue. Hope you are getting the point. So there was, see, there was total discrimination. The families from which the soldiers belonged, those families were being tortured by the British government. But the soldiers were completely loyal to the British government. So how long it could continue? How long they could continue with their situation? It was impossible because they were getting report. They used to get the letters from their families. They used to get the information that their families are being suffered for a long period of time. Another issue, there was poor pay and other allowances. Means the Indian soldiers and the British soldiers both are working under the British government in army, okay, in British army both are working. Now an Indian soldier paid too poor salary, the salary was too low. The same responsibility was performed by a British army, a British soldier and an Indian soldier. But the Indian soldier was getting too low salary. Okay, the salary was too poor for him. And the other allowances was also too low. They are not given actually other allowances. And there was no promotion for the Indian soldiers. They served with full loyalty, but there was no system of promotion for the Indian soldiers, whereas the British soldiers were getting promotion. All of you know, I hope that you know that about the promotion system in the army, isn't it? So the Indian soldiers were not having any chance for getting the promotion, whereas the British soldiers were getting promoted. Okay, means in the upgraded situation they are going. So they used to get high salary. And about the fooding and lodging, okay, poor quality of food. Poor quality of food, then other accommodations was another big issue. The food which was supplied for the Indian soldiers, the accommodation, the places where they used to stay, all were filthy places, dirty places. They could not survive over there in proper manner. A human being cannot survive over there. The report says like that. Okay. So the filthy food and the worst accommodation provided to the Indian soldiers who were working under the British army. But how long they could continue in this manner? They were suffering a lot, no? That's why there was protest. Another important thing you have to remember here, that is the service rule. Service rule. See, there was a system that in a particular period of your service, if you are working under British army, you have to go for overseas responsibilities. Overseas responsibility, overseas service. What is this overseas service? Means you have to cross the sea and serve over there for few years. Okay, at a particular place you have to serve, and while going over there you have to cross the sea. And you see, our social structure, the customs, was not that much upgraded ones. The people used to consider that the idea was that if anybody crosses the sea, that means he will lose his religion. That was the concept earlier. In the Indian society, in certain societies, there was this concept that if anybody crosses the sea, okay, serve over there, that means he will lose his religion. So many of the Indian soldiers were not at all agreed to serve overseas. Okay, they were not at all interested. But there was the situation in 1824. 1824 there was war with Burma. War with Burma. Okay, present day is Myanmar. So there was war with Burma in 1824, and the Indian soldiers were forced to serve over there, okay, crossing the sea. As I told you, our social structure did not support this system, because the belief was that they will lose their religion. That's why they were not at all interested to serve over there, crossing the sea. So they were forced, and those who were not agreed, they were punished severely, even they were suspended. Okay, many soldiers were suspended, they were tortured, and they were sacked from the service. Hope you are getting the point. So this situation provoked the soldiers to protest against the government, protest against the company. Okay, this was the situation. But ultimately in 1856, new law was passed. What was the new law? The new law was that if anybody joins the army, then he has to serve overseas for a particular period of time, and it will be compulsory. No one can deny the overseas service. Okay, purposely, intentionally, this policy was included in the service rule. So you can realize how much grievances were there among the Indian soldiers. Okay, because our social structure did not support these policies that time. Another thing, that certain reforms were brought by the British government. Actually, those were rather we can say good for the society, no doubt. Suppose say the abolition of sati. Okay, earlier we have discussed about the abolition of sati. You know about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, okay, who is considered as the first modern man of India. Okay, then there was the introduction of English education. Okay, then Widow Remarriage Act. Actually, for that situation, many people could not accept this. But these were the reforms brought by the British government. So these reforms brought by the British government were not actually supported by the Indian society that time. Okay, that was the problem. So now see how the society was reacting against the reforms brought by the British government. Okay, the responses to reforms. Responses to reforms. What type of reforms were brought? Say for example, abolition of sati. Okay, abolition of sati. Then Widow Remarriage Act. Widow Remarriage Act. Then introduction of English education. Introduction of English education. Then Christian missionaries activity. Okay, as I told you earlier, during that situation our society did not accept certain reforms brought by the British government. What were those reforms? Say for example, abolition of sati. Sati was a custom, you know, it was practiced for a long period of time. Okay, means a alive wife, okay, of a dead husband was burnt alive in the pyre of the funeral. Okay, funeral pyre. So this sati system was abolished. Lord William Bentinck introduced the law. Okay, then Widow Remarriage Act was introduced because for a long time widows were suffering, and our one of the eminent social reformer, Ishwar Vidyasagar, okay, he also worked hard for this, okay, for the widow remarriage. So Widow Remarriage Act was introduced. So all these reforms brought by the British government were not accepted by all the sections of the society, because our society was not that much upgraded that time. Moreover, introduction of the English education system was also not felt so good by all the sections of the society, because they were thinking that our culture, education system, social structure, all were getting spoiled for the British government, okay, due to the introduction of such reforms as well as for the introduction of English education. Okay. Moreover, the activities of the Christian missionaries were spreading day by day. They could more freely move in many places. They could expand their religious ideas. they could convert. Okay, actually by 1850, this is very important, 1850 conversion to Christianity became more easier. It became easier. Okay, so these policies brought by the British government were actually not welcomed by all the sections of the society. That was the problem. So these reforms, the responses to the reforms brought by the British government were not so proper. Okay, it was not at all proper. It was not going smoothly. So what I want to tell here that all the sections of the society were disappointed. You see the disappointment of the soldiers due to their pay, due to their allowances, due to their service rule. Overseas service were not accepted at all. Then the peasants were suffering due to the high rate of revenue. Okay, from the families, from those families who belonged to the soldiers belonged to those families which families were tortured for the submission of revenue. So how long it can continue? It cannot continue for a longer period of time. So all the sections, right from the peasants, the soldiers, the landlords, if the landlord failed to submit the tax, then his land, his property, okay, his territory gone under the British rule, gone under the company. Now see, no one was escaped. Okay, so the farmers, the landlords, kings or nawabs, soldiers, all were suffering. So how long they could suppress the grievances of all the sections of the society? It is impossible. It was impossible actually. So that way it continued. Actually, the ruler and the ruled, the clash between the ruler and the ruled is always there. We have found in many revolutions around the world. This clash between the ruler and the ruled is quite common. It is obvious to happen. So what is needed? Connecting with the people, the strong organization, okay, then to collect the arms, ammunitions. So all these things were ready for the revolt of 1857. These were getting ready actually. Okay. Now let us see how this revolt actually started. Okay. Actually, the revolt started in North India. Initially, it was started in North India. Okay. From Meerut to Delhi. From Meerut to Delhi. How this revolt spreaded? Let us see. Actually, on 29th March 1857, Mangal Pandey, hope you heard the name, Mangal Pandey, an Indian soldier, was hanged. What was his fault? What was his allegation against? That he attacked one British officer, and due to that he was hanged on 29th March 1857. One Indian soldier, he was hanged. So this incident provoked the soldiers, okay, for mutiny. Okay, they started revolt against this. Then on 9th May 1857, there was protest, refusal against the cartridges of Enfield rifle. What is this incident? Actually, this Enfield rifle, a type of arm, was introduced that time. Okay, before the revolt of 1857, a new type of rifle was introduced by the British Army here in India, and the cartridges of that rifle is to be tear by teeth and has to be put in the gun. Now the rumor spread that, okay, the cartridges were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. Now you see, there were among the Indian soldiers, there were Hindus and Muslims and all, no? they belong to various religions, and you know that the Hindus consider cows as sacred one, and the Muslims do not consume pig and all. So that's why it was a total discrimination. They were provoked. Okay, they ready for the mutiny. Means such kind of differences, discrimination making between the Hindus and Muslims. Okay, the soldiers, various groups of soldiers. It was not at all means allowed by the Indian soldiers. Okay, so this Enfield rifle incident worked like a matchstick. Okay, burning matchstick in the a heap of the gunpowder. Okay, on 9th May the incident took place. Then on 10th May, a group of soldiers went to Meerut regiment and they released the captured army, Indian soldiers. Okay, they also captured the arms and ammunitions. Actually, those soldiers who protested against about the utilization of Enfield rifle, okay, they were suspended, they were imprisoned for 10 years. Okay, they were punished also, they were severely punished as they denied to use the Enfield rifle. So those soldiers were imprisoned, but very next day, 10th May, a group of Indian soldiers, they approached to the Meerut regiment and they killed the British army officers, they snatched, they captured the weapons and they released those captured Indian soldiers. So actually we can say this is the very beginning of the revolt. Okay, then by 11th May 1857, a huge number of soldiers, they approached towards Delhi and they proclaimed that Bahadur Shah Zafar will be their leader. Actually he was quite aged that time, but still there was a feeling for the Mughal empire, no? The Mughal dynasty which ruled for a longer period of time, there was a feeling, okay, there was a smooth feeling, okay, there was a feeling for the Mughal dynasty. That's why Bahadur Shah Zafar accepted their demand and he wrote many letters to various leaders around the country and they all were interested to join the revolt. Okay, he considered himself, he accepted the demand. Bahadur Shah Zafar, though he was aged, but he accepted the demand of the soldiers and accordingly he wrote letters to many Indian leaders, okay, Indian rulers, and they got readily agreed, okay, they readily agreed with the to accept his demand and supply the army with him. So that way the revolt was continuing, okay, from Meerut to Delhi, that way it was started, which was started from that Barakpur, okay, where Mangal Pandey was hanged. Later on the Meerut incident, okay, from the Meerut regiment a huge number of captured army was released and the soldiers also captured the arms and weapons and all. Then they later on went to Delhi where they declared Bahadur Shah Zafar as their leader. So that way the rebellion was spreading, okay, day by day. Now we shall see some eminent leaders of this revolt, okay. What was the role played by some eminent leaders of this revolt? We shall see now. Actually, when the soldiers went to Delhi on 11th May, then after that around 1 week there was no revolution and all, okay, there was a pause, okay, but later on it continued, okay, the rebellion spreads. The rebellion spreads. The rebellion, how it is spreading? Almost, actually there was for almost a week there was no rebellion. Almost a week there was no uprising. Okay, suppose when there is any violent storm, before that everything is paused, okay, everything is silent, like that, okay, so that way it approached. Then suddenly regiment after regiment started mutiny, okay, started the mutiny, okay. regiment after regiment started mutiny. From Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, in various places the rebellion started spreading. Okay, Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. Okay, actually he demanded earlier to accept his authority by the British government, but this was rejected. So you see his discrimination, how displeased he was. So definitely he was ready to fight against the British. So that way from Kanpur he started his revolt. So Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Bahadur Shah Zafar, Nana Sahib, the Peshwa Bajirao, Nana Sahib was the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. Okay, he started his mutiny from Kanpur. Okay, then other leaders also, say for example Birjis Kadir. Okay, Birjis Kadir, who was the son of Nawab of Lucknow, he also started the revolt. Okay, Birjis Kadir, he was the son of Nawab of Lucknow. Okay, Birjis Kadir, who was the son of Nawab of Lucknow, he also started protesting from there. And even his mother also, Begum Hazrat Mahal, his mother Begum Hazrat Mahal, his mother, she also started the revolt. So it was a big mutiny. It was a big mutiny against the British government. Okay. Then Rani Lakshmibai, all of you know, you heard the name. Rani Lakshmibai from Jhansi. Rani Lakshmibai from Jhansi, she also started protesting. Actually she demanded to accept the authority of her adopted son, which was denied by the British government. So of course she was disappointed, completely disappointed. So she was ready for the revolt. So the mutiny was turning a bigger one, okay, in various places, which was started from Barakpur, now it is spreading in various parts of the country. So Rani Lakshmibai from Jhansi, she started protesting against. Then Tatia Tope, who was one of the chief leader of Nana Sahib, he also started protesting. He started with the revolt. Okay, Tatia Tope, okay, from Mandla, Madhya Pradesh. Mandla, Madhya Pradesh. From this place he started his revolt. Okay, so now see these various leaders. Okay, Birjis Kadir, who was the Nawab of Lucknow. Okay, means he was the son of Nawab of Lucknow, who was starting his revolt from that place. Then his mother, Begum Hazrat Mahal, she was also joined in the revolution. Rani Lakshmibai, all these eminent leaders joined in this great revolt of 1857. So it cannot be called just the Sepoy mutiny. Okay, that's why it is rightly said that the first struggle for the Indian freedom. Okay, so that way. Then many other leaders, Rani Avanti Lodhi from Ramgarh. Rani Avanti Lodhi of Ramgarh, she also started the mutiny, okay, with 4,000 soldiers. So Rani Avanti Lodhi, who managed to get 4,000 soldiers and started the mutiny. Okay, so that way the mutiny was expanding, okay, around the country. Then there was Ahmadullah Shah, a Maulavi. You have to remember these names. Okay, the leaders of the revolt 1857. Ahmadullah Shah, who was the Maulavi of Faizabad. Ahmadullah Shah, a Maulavi of Faizabad. he also claimed that this British government must not be continuing here for a longer period of time, was spoiling the Indian culture, heritage and all, suppressing all the sections of the society. Then how it is possible for this government, this foreign ruler, to continue for a longer period of time? So even a Maulavi also, Ahmadullah Shah, he also protested. He joined the mutiny. Okay, then some others like Ghazis, the religious warriors, okay, Ghazis, who are the religious, we call them the religious warriors, the religious warriors of Delhi. Okay, the Ghazis, they were the religious warriors of Delhi. They joined the mutiny. They joined in the revolt of 1857. So definitely it was expanding day by day. Okay, then Bakht Khan, a soldier from Bareilly. Bakht Khan, a soldier from Bareilly. He started the mutiny with his followers. Then Kunwar Singh, an old zamindar of Bihar, he started the mutiny, joined the revolt of 1857. So this way, so you can see from the various parts of the country, all the sections of the society got involved in the revolt. So definitely it was a mass movement. Which was started by the soldiers actually, okay, in the Barakpur regiment or Mirat. It was expanded to all the sections of the society. You have seen how it was started by Nana Sahib in Kanpur. The leaders, you must remember the names of these eminent leaders of this revolt of 1857. So Nana Sahib, who was the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II, so he started the mutiny from Kanpur. Okay, then Rani Lakshmi Bai, who was fighting from Jhansi, because earlier she demanded to accept her adopted son's authority, okay, for her region, but it was rejected by the British government. So definitely she was disappointed, and she also joined the mutiny, the revolt of 1857. Okay, then we have discussed about Ahmadullah Shah, okay, a Maulavi from Faizabad. Okay, actually one religious person, okay, they got involved here. Why? Because they found that the foreign ruler, what they are doing, they are spoiling the Indian culture, heritage and all, everything. All those got spoiled. Then such a government cannot continue here for a longer period of time. So every section of the society must protest against those authority. Okay. Then Ghazis, who were the religious warriors of Delhi, got involved in the mutiny because they were also disappointed, okay, with the situation. Then Bakht Khan, who was a soldier from Bareilly, he joined the mutiny. Okay. Then Kunwar Singh, who was an old zamindar of Bihar, he also joined the revolt of 1857. So like that, many leaders got involved here, and the main centers were expanding day by day. Okay, Lucknow, Kanpur, then you have seen Delhi. Okay, so like that in various places the revolt was expanding. Okay, now we have seen the expansion of the revolt of 1857. Now what did the company do? Okay, with that intention, what they have come here, that to continue their business, to control the administration totally. How can the company sit quietly? It was not possible for the company to sit quietly, in that situation, because their intention was to capture the total administration, to conduct the business in a better way. Then how can they could leave it just to go away, simply to go? No, they were not ready at all. So the company fights back. Now we shall see the company fights back. The company fights back. Company could not keep silent. Why? Because they had the intention to control the administration totally. Though initially they have arrived here as the business group, but their main intention, they wanted the total control of the Indian administration. Then how could they sit quiet? Of course not. So they started fighting back. Okay. So initially Delhi was captured. Delhi was captured by 1857. Okay. September. So Delhi was recaptured by September 1857. You have to remember this. Delhi was recaptured by September 1857. Company was successful to recapture Delhi. Okay. Then Bahadur Shah Zafar was tried and imprisoned in October 1858. By October 1858, Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was the leader of this revolt, he was tried in the court, and he was imprisoned in Rangoon with his wife, where he died in the year 1862. Okay, the last Mughal ruler died while imprisoned in Rangoon in 1862. Then 2 years, the fighting was continued for 2 years, further 2 years. Okay, Lucknow was taken back in 1858. Lucknow was taken back in 1858. Then Lakshmi Bai, who was one of the greatest leader, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, she was one of the greatest leader of this revolt, you know. She was killed in 1858. Then Rani Avanti Bai also had the same fate. She also suffered the same fate. She was captured, killed. Tantia Tope, okay, who escaped, okay, but ultimately he was captured, and 1859 he was killed. Tantia Tope. The one by one the leaders were captured and killed. Okay, 1859 he was killed. So that way company was successful. Company fought back to re-establish their power, and one by one all the regions were recaptured. Okay, so that way the mutiny came to an end. Now after the mutiny, the company planned for something else. They changed their administrative policies. They brought certain new strategies, that how can we continue here in a better manner. Okay, so let us see what are the, that is called the aftermath. Aftermath of the revolt. What were the administrative reforms brought by the company after this revolt? What were the aftermath? So aftermath of the revolt. Aftermath of the revolt. What happened after the revolt? Let us see. British regained control by 1859. Now see, the revolt was started in the year 1857. Just within 2 years, by 1859, company was successful to regain its power. Got the point? Then transfer of power from the East India Company was given to the Queen. Means the Queen of England took the total control of the administration of India instead of the East India Company. Somehow it was found that East India Company was not running successfully regarding the administration. That's why the power, the authority of administration was given to the Queen, okay, the then Queen of England instead of the company. I hope you are getting the point. Then another very important initiative was taken by the company was that the number of number of Indian soldiers were reduced. Okay, the British government preferred to bring more soldiers from England instead of appointing Indians in the British army, because they were not satisfied. They were shocked with the revolt. Actually, this revolt of 1857 shook the base of the British Empire. It is true, it is rightly said. So that's why they preferred to bring more soldiers from England instead of appointing more from India. And from certain parts from where the revolt took place, say for example Awadh, Bihar and all, there was the less appointment of the soldiers. Rather they prefer to appoint from the other, say for example Gurkha, then Sikhs, okay, then Pathans. From those places where the revolt did not take place, okay, where there was no revolt, from those places, especially from the Gurkha, from the Sikhs, from the Pathans, the Indian soldiers were appointed. Rather, okay, means they stopped taking the soldiers from those places from where the mutiny took place, say for example Bihar, Awadh and those places, okay. Then some other great initiative was taken, especially the land property and all these things of the Muslims were confiscated. They were not taken in favor of the British government, okay, because most of the leaders belonged to the Muslim community, so they were suspected. That's why their land property and all were confiscated by the British government. Another important initiative was taken, that the authority of the adopted son was accepted, for which the problem was created by Nana Saheb, then Rani Lakshmi Bai. Actually they demanded for the acceptance of their adopted son, the authority, isn't it? Their adopted son's authority was not accepted earlier. So after the revolt, the company accepted the demand. The adopted son's demand was accepted by the company, and the zamindars were assured, the landlords were assured that their rights and authority will be established again. So that way some policies, some strategies, administrative reforms were brought by the company here, okay. So we shall wind up the class now. We have discussed about the certain situations for which the revolt took place here. You have seen about the subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse and all these things, for which people of all the sections were disappointed, and gradually the power of the Nawab was declined, okay, their army was disbanded. So that way the Indian Nawabs and rulers' power was decreased and the company was flourishing. So definitely even the soldiers were disappointed for their pay, allowances, fooding, lodging and all. So that way the revolt was started from Barakpur, and actually it was spreaded like wildfire. The mutiny spreaded like wildfire from Barakpur to Meerut, then Lucknow and various places, Delhi, okay, like that, Kanpur, in various places. And we have studied about the eminent leaders, Nana Saheb, Tatya Tope, Rani Lakshmi Bai, okay, Waqt Khan, okay, Kunwar Singh, okay, Rani Avanti, Lodhi. So various eminent leaders were involved with this revolt. Then company was successful to stop the revolt in various ways, and ultimately they have adopted certain administrative reforms after the revolt. That way we have studied this chapter. Hope you understood, okay, and you can prepare some important question answer from here. Say you can write about the leaders of the revolt, who are the leaders of this revolt, okay, and when Mangal Pandey was hanged, certain short type of questions also important from here. Then some other broad questions can be there. Write a short note on the aftermath of the revolt. What were the administrative reforms brought by the British government after the revolt? So these are certain important questions you can prepare from here. Okay. Thank you all for watching. Bye all of you.